word. So I'm thrilled that everybody made a little bit of time for this tonight. I know there's a lot doing and going and cold and dinner and everything else, but I hope that this time can kind of initiate us into the experience of Hanukkah, perhaps at a little bit of a deeper level. So I'm going to take us straight into, hi Lucy, hi Leah. Wonderful. I'm going to take us into our blessing and invite everybody to kind of join as they like. And if you do have a candle, this would be a moment you could light it. I was thinking about, there's so much about light, and I don't know about you, but I'm a pyromaniac. And to kind of get in relationship with light and with candles and particularly is really what we are cultivating. So if you have a light, you're welcome to light that. Did anybody bring a candle by chance?
No.
You did? Oh, Shreed. Okay. Will you light it for us just to?
I did.
You did.
You want to
Okay.
see it?
Yeah, let's see it.
Okay.
That'd be awesome.
I'll hold it.
Amazing. Okay, beautiful. Great. And maybe while we say the bracha, just kind of hold it close to us and we can already begin to meditate on the light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Great. Todah for bringing the illumination. That's perfect. Oh, great. And Leah has one. Super.
Another
And
one.
Lucy. Oh my gosh, look at you all. I love this. Yeah, it's great. So, experience the light as we learn tonight. I really welcome that. And if you have observations about just having it burning near you or thoughts, just chime in.
May I
Great.
ask you a question, Rabbi?
Sure.
We were in Arizona during warm months. We come back to Oregon in the late spring, and we travel in our RV. And I almost burned the RV down twice on Shabbat.
Wow.
Because I lit candles, but then the
Yeah.
breezes and the fans, and so
Yep.
I ended up buying electric candles or battery powered, and
Yeah.
even our menorah for Hanukkah is that way because I put it out on our deck so it can be seen outside.
Powerful.
Is that all right to use artificial light and not?
Yeah, I mean, you can actually bless say the bracha over light upon a light bulb or sunbeam coming through the moonlight if you don't have candles. And in fact, it's a great segue because the section that we're going to look at tonight, called in Talmudic terms by its kind of capstone line or header line, which is my Hanukkah, which is what is Hanukkah, falls in the section of the Talmud about Shabbat and about specifically wicks and flames.
Okay.
So just kind of stay with that for a second. And what you're describing, Hannah, is that the question is also asked in the Talmud, what can you use as a wick and what can you use as a flame? So it's an ancient question. And I think the other point which you brought to the floor is also fire is dangerous and fire is fast.
Mhm.
And fire is also there's so many associations in Jewish life related to creation and the first, Vayihi or let there be light, associations that Torah is actually black fire written on white fire.
Oh.
So the flames are, there are a lot of flames.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Hanukkah particularly is a bit of a dangerous time because people are lighting so many candles, and we'll talk about the placement and kind of that. But You're in the right place. So let's go to the sheet. For sure. Thank you for your question. And I look back, I had first prepared this like 5 years ago. And I left the date because it's just cool to think, how much we learn and unlearn and remember and forget. So I welcome us all into that awareness. So what we're going to be looking at is a section of the Gemara, the Talmud, that describes the conversation of the rabbis basically saying, what on earth is this thing called Hanukkah? And already what that does is set the stage to say, this is a rabbinic conversation. This is part of rabbinic Judaism versus Torah Judaism, in that Hanukkah is, of course, not in the Torah. So that we are seeing it in the book of Maccabees and a few other places outside of the Torah itself and outside of the traditional canon is not a surprise, because in some ways it speaks to that Hanukkah is like a minor holiday, and particularly a rabbinic holiday. Does that land for everybody? I just want to make sure. There's a lot here. Okay, so great. So let's go into the page of Talmud. A page of Talmud is called a daf. And there are two sides, and this comes from the section of Shabbat 21b. And I realize it's also a little bit hard to see. So I don't know if those of you who got the email, if you want to read from your own copy, or you want to enlarge or change the size. I'm going to see also, I think there's a way to enlarge this. And just while we are kind of getting going, if anybody wants to share anything in the chat, or, say what Hanukkah is to you, please feel free. I know we're far away in distance, but I think there's a lot that brings us together.
It does.
So here we go. So my Hanukkah, and the question, I also left you my notes because I think they're pretty, kind of standard, amazing questions, to be honest, which is, how are you and how are we going to bring light into the world? And the reason this conversation is found within the Masechet, the tractate on Shabbat, is because it's about light, but it's about Hanukkah carries echoes of so many other Jewish holidays and experiences, and in some ways that's why and only how it could come to be. The 8 days comes from the holiday of Sukkot. The idea of light was most likely from our neighbors at that time, being that this is, we're on the brink of solstice. And this idea, this question of, it is getting really dark, how on earth do we survive till spring, is a very human question. So does somebody want to just take us through the Gemara? And I'll just read you a tiny bit in the Hebrew, just so you get a flair for it, as we say. Tanu Rabbanan, mitzvat Chanukah ner ish ubeito v'hamhadrin ner lechol echad ve'echad v'hamhadrin min hahadrin. Beit Shammai omrim yom rishon madlik shmona mikan ve'elech poteach ve'cholech. Beit Hillel omrim yom rishon malik echad mikan ve'elech misof v'halech. So what we looked at here, what I just read to you is basically, and I'm going to point to it with a cursor just so that you can kind of see where I was reading from. But here is here's the section in the Gemara, and Tanu Rabbanan is the beginning. So this speaks to, what are the rabbis asking? They're asking, what is this mitzvah of Hanukkah, and what is the place of a ner, of a candle? And the first essence of it, the first description of it, is that there should be a ner, ish ubeito, that there should be a light for every person in a household. So if somebody wants to just walk us through the Gemara on this side, David, could I ask you to? I'm so excited to see you. And so David was one of the folks in our intro classes months ago, and I just randomly invited them all. So I'm so excited you came.
I'm glad that you invited me. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, totally. So if you want to just start the rabbis taught, and what this is kind of a funky layout of this interspersing of the Hebrew with the English. So kind of just let your eye bounce towards the English.
Okay, yeah. The rabbis taught in a Baraisa, the essential commandment of the Hanukkah lights is one light each night for a man and his entire household, and those who pursue mitzvos have one light each night for each and every one in their households. And for those who most fervently pursue mitzvos, Beis Shammai say that on the first day of Hanukkah, I can't read that.
Kindles. And that's
Kindles
like a eye exam.
One kindles 8 lights, and henceforth continuously decreases that amount. But Beis Hillel says that on the first day, one kindles 1 light, and henceforth continuously increases that amount.
Great. Awesome. So that was very complicated, and you did a great job reading between the lines, literally. So I'll just kind of catch us all up in case some of that was clear and some of it wasn't. A Breita, first of all, is a kind of conversation outside of a conversation. And so what's happening in this page of Talmud is that they are bringing in kind of a cutting room floor consideration. And the first kind of language to note is, again, as I said, it's about nerot, it's about candles. But the second is this idea of mehadrin. This is a word, and I'm kind of circling it here with my cursor. The idea of mehadrin comes from the shoresh, the root of hidur, which is to beautify. So there's already a question of, okay, what is the essence of Hanukkah? What is like the bare minimum? And the bare minimum, can anybody just say what it is based on what we just read?
Lighting
Yeah. Oshrit. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Either
everyone
one.
knows.
Now neither of you. Oshrit, go ahead.
It says 1 candle for each one in the household.
Yeah, so the
That's
like
simple?
a very, very simple, economically viable for everybody is that each person lights 1 light.
It's beautiful.
And that's it. And I love this. I love where the Gemara begins, because it's such a reminder of, we go cuckoo as Jews about so many things. And at the essence is this very simple, very pure, light 1 candle. Each person light a candle, which is what we did tonight. Many of you lit. And then Mahadrin, how do you make that even more beautiful? You can, each and every person can light according to these 2 ways of lighting. And the juxtaposition is between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai. Can someone just summarize what is Shammai's opinion and what is Hillel's opinion? I know I'm kind of asking you hard questions tonight.
It's not hard.
I can answer. Hillel says, let the light grow over the 8 days. Each
Yep.
day, light another candle, make it more. Shammai says, no, shrink it. Each day should be one less candle over time.
Right. Right. And exactly. And Lucy, what you did is just take us into the next section of the Masechet, which is, the rationale or the conversation around why each of them would do it that way. And it's a fascinating debate, really. We can think of it on a pshat level, on a very simple level of just, which makes more sense to start with 8 and go to 1, or start with 1 and go to 8. Or we can kind of look at the remez, we can look at the hidden meaning, and perhaps there's something here about, psychologically, do we want to increase something, or do we want to start with something great and then decrease it? And some people actually still light according to Shammai, which is kind of a fascinating experiment. Has anybody here ever lit? Lee, have you ever lit according to Shammai? It'd be kind of one of the things I could imagine you doing. Mark, have you? Was that a hand?
No, haven't done that one.
Okay. Yeah, it would be interesting. How about just for kind of where does this land for you all? Would you, if you didn't know who won, who would you vote for? Based on whatever.
We've tried it both ways, and we go with the Hillel. It just seems right. Yeah.
I like the growing of the light, not shrinking of the light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one, I see something in the chat. Increase the light. Mark, that's awesome. The one challenge I find actually about Hillel is that there's almost like a cliff. I have a really hard time letting go of Hanukkah because there's so much illumination. It's almost like you go from seeing a neon light to being in the dark. And I usually have to like wean myself off Hanukkah by lighting a bunch of candles at the end. Could just be me, but this conversation around 8 to 1 or 1 to 8. It touches on a theme within Jewish tradition of Ma'alin B'Kodesh, that you should go up in holiness, and it's part of this page on the Gemara, and it is actually the reason of Hillel. So, and Beit Hillel's reason for requiring this increase is Dema'alin b'kodesh ein moridim, that you should go up, that all of us should go up in holiness and not down. And I think about this phrase a lot because I think it's powerfully Jewish that sometimes we look at these dips, whether it's, Joseph in the pit or Tisha B'Av, and we think about, why does the tradition take us so low, so deep? And one of the awarenesses is Ma'alin B'Kodesh Ein Moridim, that by starting out in some way so low or going so low, it's there that we can only go up in holiness. Any comments, thoughts on that? Yeah, a note that I made here, which I just want to mention is, again, just in the way that Torah can be read on multiple levels, so too can Talmud. And one of the conversations, almost midrashically on this page of Gemara, is the metaphor of this fire standing for God. That this has actually nothing to do with the candles or the wicks, but in fact, this conversation, this debate between Hillel and Shammai is more about how is it that we navigate our relationship with God. Lee, I can see your mind.
I just want to, having always lit them according to Beit Hillel.
Yeah.
And the notion of making a crater. I just am put in mind of the passage in Deuteronomy where it is said, I think it's in Deuteronomy, where it is said, we will fly like eagles, we will run, we will walk.
Yeah.
And there's this progression from what seems the greater to what seems the lesser. And there's this sense that, you know, it's great to have this great start, but really part of the essence of commitment is enduring as it becomes, you know, a little more distant. And so in that sense, it shouldn't be the cliff that you were talking about, that all of a sudden we're bereft.
Right.
But Shammai may be onto something in the sense that, you know, the further we go, you know, our spirituality exists in our increasing commitment, even though we are more distant.
I love that. So profound. Yeah. Yeah. And then there's, you know, because Hanukkah is 8 days, which it's an echo, as I said, of Sukkot, but also of the 8 days reflected in the Brit Milah, in the circumcision. There's this kind of infinity strip built into Hanukkah. So Lee, what you're describing really, I think, works, because as you round that 8, you almost loop back. Yeah, so I'll think about that as I go from 8 to, it's not 8 to 0, it's 8 to commitment in the absence, right? And that's true with Purim in particular. It's the absence of God that creates the theurgy, the kind of rubber band of relationship, the yearning. Cool. Any other reads so far? All right. So then where I want to take us now is the next chunk of the Gemara, which is this section that I named the class for, which is Petach Beito. So it comes from here. I'm just going to read you a little bit of the Hebrew, and this is the section. Oh, let me do it actually from the Petach page. This was, as I mentioned, I forgot like one of the most important paragraphs of the English, not the Hebrew, in my copying to you. So I want to just do it from the full shebang. Okay. Okay, so at the top here, and this is the same Hebrew, I just forgot this paragraph of the English. So Ner Chanukah mitzvat lechanicha al petach beito. Umechutz im haya dar, is that 2 daled rishas? I think dar ba'aliyah manicha bechalon hasmucha. So this is the section of and I'm pausing because I forgot to look up this this acrostic. Oshri, do you remember this?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's Lerachov something. Anyway, so what we're reading here is Ner Chanukah. It's it's an acrostic, like it's an abbreviation of the first 3 words. I think it's Lerachov something. Anyway, so maybe L'Rosh Rechov. Yeah, that could be. So the lights of Hanukkah, the mitzvah is actually to place them Petach Beito. And this word Petach Beito is something that has stayed with me ever since I learned it, which is at the opening of your house. And can I just ask, does anybody else have any associations with Petach Beito or Petach HaOhel, the opening of the tent. Does anything come to mind for folks?
In Egypt, when they
In
marked the
Egypt?
blood.
Definitely in Egypt, there was a lot of conversation about which way our tents were facing, and that they actually didn't face one another for modesty or for kind of privacy. Yeah, and this is also, we also hear about Petach Beito at so many places in Torah where Moshe is in conversation with God, and Avraham is sitting at the opening Petach HaOhel. He's sitting at the opening of his tent. So here, what we're seeing is that not only are we required as the mitzvah to light the lights, but what is most significant is the placement. Right? When you think about like Shabbat candles, there's never specified where you should light your Shabbat candles. But what is so important about this mitzvah is the placement, and it's to place them at the opening of your house. So if you just saw that phrase, opening of your house, what would come to mind?
Opening the heart.
Oh, okay. I love that. Oshrit going right into the
House
depths.
is your body, and
Beautiful.
heart it's your consciousness, maybe your heart.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I was asking very concretely, where in your house do you consider the petach, the opening? But I love that you went straight to the metaphoric.
So I know in Europe they put it on the table so the goys can see it.
Exactly.
But it's the first time that I hear it on the front of the door.
Yeah, so it could be, you could think, okay, well, I should put it at my front door. You could put it on the table so it's visible, like perhaps through a window, which is, Oshrit, is that what you're describing? That it was visible in the window?
Literally, they put it on the windowsill.
Right. Yes. Yep. And what's interesting, and I'm going to show you a picture that we're going to kind of go from here, but I'll just finish this paragraph. If you live, actually, Lucy, do you want to read this? If you live on the upper floor.
Sure. Let's see. If one lived on an upper floor and had no place in the courtyard to put their Hanukkah light, they should place it in a window that is adjacent to the public domain. And in time of danger, they should place the light on their table, and that is sufficient for them to fulfill the mitzvah.
Great, and thanks for switching to the they. I love that. Yeah, this is a very one-angled translation. So I'm going to show you a picture now that has always kind of stayed with me, and I included it also in the packet that I sent, which is, let me go to it, switching. So it's this picture. So the mitzvah is to place your candle at Petach Beito, the opening of your house. And here, what we're seeing is 1933. In Kiel, Germany. And you see in the back the swastika. So this is, this is clearly a time of danger, and yet this family put their Chanukiah Petach Beito. And I've been thinking about this a lot because I think, with anti-Semitism on the rise, still the question is, should we put it Petach Beito, or should we put it, as the Gemara says, on our table, on the inside? So any thoughts or comments related to the photo or anything else at this moment?
It's really, really intense. I certainly wouldn't have the courage to put it in the window.
Yeah.
Not at that time. I mean, I have conflicted feelings about this, this year. I'm very aware of a lot of the danger, and I think it's a time where, it's important to be careful.
Yeah.
Rabbi, where we are in, I am muted. Where we are in Arizona is the second most conservative part of the whole state.
Mm.
We ended up here because my cousin lives here, and we've met a lot of wonderful people, but it is a very conservative, I just leave that word. But what's interesting is down here, because you spend so much of your life outside in the desert,
Mhm.
we have always placed our menorah on an elevated table on our deck.
Mm.
And when you talk about the opening to your home, the deck becomes the opening to your home down here. It's the first place that people come together. It's the first place you enter into the living space. And in all the years, no one ever said to me or taught me that you placed it at your doorway or outside. It was always in a window inside. And I didn't want to do that here. I wanted to feel strong and safe that we could put it outside where we're one of maybe 3 Jews in the whole area. So anyway, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's
Okay.
very, very
That rules
powerful.
out Lake Havasu, having
That's
having
where we
lived in-
are.
right, having lived in
However,
that part of the world.
yeah. However, Chabad has opened a Chabad house here as of November 27th, and they are lighting a 9-foot menorah down on the water channel that is just amazing that it's happening.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that comes from in the Tanya, which is one of the key books for Chabad. There's the imagery of being a Jew is to be a lamplighter, because historically, there was always someone designated to light the lamps around the town. And so it's like a kind of do or die moment in terms of the Chanukiah, because we either light the lamps publicly or there is no light.
right. Yes.
Um,
It's been 6 years without them here. So it's going to be wonderful.
yeah, and it's complicated.
It is. Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to put in another, again, the other vision, which is very hard and which is harder when I am responsible for young kids
Mhm.
than when I'm only responsible for myself. But even in the 1990s, Mojave County was not a bastion of enlightenment. And, true story, the synagogue opened a new building and had red exit signs on the inside. And some kid riding by on a bike asked a member if we were Satanists.
Mhm.
In the face of that, I offer you this from Helen Keller, which some of you have probably heard. Security is mostly a superstition. It does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. Life is either a daring adventure or not. If we hide our Chanukiah away,
Mhm.
not because we feel they should be on the table, but because we're afraid of what the neighbors will think, then those who mean us ill have already won.
Mm. Mm.
That up for the rest. I think I've taken enough airtime.
Mm,
The one other shul here in town was attacked year before last. It didn't come to much. There was some damage, but it's some vandalism. But it is the only time that we've ever actually experienced any of that here.
yeah.
Um,
So I'm gonna add a few more things on the table. Literally on the table, I guess. So we have this kind of discernment of danger, which is a question that we've been kind of exploring for the last few minutes, which is very profound. What is danger, and what is the danger to whom? As Lee said, you know, if it's just you, what is danger? If you're with whoever you're with, what is danger? So the Gemara continues with Rava, is a real heavyweight. And does anybody want to just read what Rava adds to the conversation? Mark, you want to do this section? When one is compelled.
When one is compelled to kindle the Hanukkah light inside his house, it is necessary that he kindle another light in the same room so that he will be able to use its illumination and not that of the Hanukkah light should the need arise. In that way, it will be discernible that the Hanukkah light was kindled solely for the sake of the mitzvah. And if there is a large fire burning in the room, an extra light is not necessary. And if one is a distinguished person who does not ordinarily use the light of a torch, even though there is a large fire in the room, it is necessary that he kindle another light, for otherwise it will appear as though he kindled the Hanukkah light for his own purposes.
Mm-hmm. So Hanukkah is really fascinating, and it comes, I think, kind of swirling around this idea of Petach Beito, because what we've been discussing is, you know, the simultaneous role of Hanukkah on the inside of your house and Hanukkah on the outside of your house, and who's standing where and from what perspective. And there are not a lot of holidays where particularly the Gemara ever talks about what does it look like on the outside. And Hanukkah is this constant kind of dance between within the liminal, you know, from looking from both sides of the window, both sides of the opening. And so that's one point that's very unique. And of course, the idea there is Pirsume Hanes, which is to advertise the miracle, which is a fascinating concept. You know, here we are advertising, like, but since when do Jews advertise anything? Although, you know, that's a joke because that's one of our great gifts, advertising everything. But the second component here within this paragraph, which is very unique and very beautiful, is that I'll ask you the question and you can answer it. Can you use the Chanukiah, the light of the Chanukiah? David, I see you shaking.
It's not a light for everyday function. It's a light for the sake of light.
Totally, yeah. And this is one of the most, I think, very, very deep aspects of Hanukkah, is that the mitzvah, we light it, we place it, and then we're not done yet. Actually, we have to just look at it. There's nothing to do except for be with that light. We cannot use it. And you think, okay, la da 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 da, like maybe if I have the time to watch the candles. But if you think about this in terms of like the historic socio everything, it was either dark or light. And you either had access to light or you didn't. And when you did, you could work. And when you didn't, you couldn't work. And there's a real like red line circled in the Chanukiah to say, you cannot use me. And this even trumps, which is very rare, Shabbat, which for the Shabbat candles, you can, efshar lehishtamesh, you can use them. But this one, like, no way. So I want to take us, any thoughts about that? Because it's something I think pretty cool.
It might be connected to the infinity of the 8 and a certain moment. You speak about dualities of the dark and the light. And also in the other picture of the Chanukiah and the Nazis symbol is 8 against 4, maybe.
Wow, you mean 8 of the swastika?
4 of the swastika. So how you say that?
8 against 4. I see. Oh my gosh, that's very powerful. I've never heard that before. Wow.
It just thought that came to me, maybe.
Yeah. So I'm going to take us now to a couple of Hasidic texts. First, I don't know if you all saw this, kind of funny. I just put in here this Chanukiah of Hebrews for a little bit of a comedic break, but you know, you can make a Chanukiah out of anything and everything. So here's one made out of beer bottles, and it's, if you ever are in Jerusalem, in the old city in particular, they you'll see these gorgeous like glass boxes, and within which people put very simple jars of oil and a wick. And so it becomes kind of like this light box, and they put it on like a little TV tray or whatever in front of their house. And so you walk down the streets and all you see are these magnificent, you know, light boxes and kids running around, and you know, people just literally sitting Petach Beito and watching the lights. And you know, there it's kind of the radical opposite to the swastika picture, where you are, all you see is light because you're in, you know, Jerusalem, or you're with your people. But on the beer bottle thing, I highly recommend making a wine bottle Chanukiah if you ever get the chance, because when the candles drop in the bottle, it's awesome. Little note from the side. Okay, so
just a
yeah,
quick
please.
this kind of the beer bottles reminded me that I didn't learn this till my adult son, who's Orthodox, taught me. I'm not going to run and get it, but I have our family menorah, and it's an oil lamp, but it has a gentle curve to it. And my son said that's actually, I mean, he was just informing me now that we shouldn't use it because it's come down through the ages. But he said it's not kosher, that it's supposed to be a straight line.
Yeah.
And there's so many menorahs that are creative that are all different places. So where is that written that it's supposed to be just?
Yeah, so that I mean, and if anybody knows, but I believe that in particular, the halachot of the Chanukiah is in the Shulchan Aruch. It comes later, but it comes, the law is interesting, but the meaning of it to me is more interesting, which is there's a kind of democratization of the lights. No light can be higher than the other lights, except for the shamash.
So these are all the same height, but they just have a gentle curve to them. You know, it's not like a straight line. It has like a little.
Yeah, and the idea there is that you don't have equal access to them all from every angle.
Thank you. Got it.
Yeah, so it's vertical, like, and
Horizontal.
horizontal. Yeah,
Because yeah, vertically they're the same height, but not horizontally.
right. Yeah,
Very interesting.
yeah. So
Thank you.
yeah, no, it's so cool, and yeah, we could, I don't know, stick with what you love, you know. I think, you know, if you have a family Chanukiah that isn't halachically green lighted, I would still keep lighting it because it's your family Chanukiah, you know.
Which is interesting because both of my parents were raised in ultra Orthodox homes, but yet that was their Hanukkah when they got married.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
and that's where I say, you know, those hilchot, there's a lot of fascination, and there's a lot of beauty. Yeah, you know, baby bathwater. I say, keep the baby and the bathwater. Okay. So I want to take us to kind of just give you an overview between these two texts, because they're similar but unique. So the Mea Shiloach is known as the Ishbitzer Rebbe, wonderful and Hasidic, Kedushat Levi. They lived, well, you can see here, the dates are here. So 1800 to 1854. Gosh, such young lives. And the Kedushat Levi a little bit earlier, but even slightly overlapping. So what they're discussing here is kind of, you know, what is the moment in which the mitzvah is kindled? Like, when does the engine turn on for this mitzvah? And to just back out for 1 second, you know, when you think about so many Jewish holidays and Jewish experiences, there are endless parts. You know, the Seder, there are 15 steps. Hanging up a mezuzah even has multiple steps. Washing your hands, multiple steps. I mean, there's a lot of kind of elements. Hanukkah there's one mitzvah for an entire holiday, which is kind of unfounded, you know, and it's the echo of Sukkot, which has many mitzvot. But Hanukkah, there's one mitzvah: light one candle per person in your house, put it by the window. And what these two Hasidic rabbis are talking about is the kind of what happens to make that so special? What is when does the mitzvah actually turn on? Does everybody understand the question? Because that's I know it's a bit kind of maybe an odd phrasing. Like, you think about, oh, the mitzvah is the mitzvah. But what they're looking for is, when almost does the oil hit the wick? Within that mitzvah, when is the micro mitzvah? Okay. Does somebody want to take us through the Mea Shiloach? And I might pause you along the way if we need. Craig, do you want to read?
All right. Lighting, it is written, or lighting creates?
Lighting creates.
Lighting creates the mitzvah, or placement creates the mitzvah?
So that's the question, right? Is it a matter of when you light it or where you place it?
Is that a question?
That's the question they're asking within the Gemara. It's a phrase taken from the page we just read, and what they're now going to kind of explore is, which is it? Does the lighting create the mitzvah or the
Okay, not
placement?
to answer it. Say lighting it. It is written, your words are a candle to my feet, light to my path. Path is the rules of the words of Torah, such as love thy neighbor like thyself. There's a great rule in the Torah. The rabbis understood that in this verse, all of the commandments are included.
Okay, so what they're doing here is it's a tool, exegetical tool called klal ofrat, which is to say what is held within what. So what they're saying now is they brought a pasuk, they brought a verse from Psalms. That's the verse that Craig just read. Your words are a candle to my feet, a light to my path. And now they're scratching at the word path. What is this idea of the path? And it's saying here that the path is an overarching statement that includes everything else. Does everybody get that? Okay, keep going.
And, quote, your words are a candle to my feet, end quote. In other words, that Hashem has to illuminate for man for every specific action and every step, and that one should not rely on the general rulings, or sometimes one cannot understand and or derive the detail from the general rule and will come to err.
Right. So the scratch here is on this first phrase. To say what is this? Your words are a candle to my feet mean, and the answer here, the explanation for that part of the verse from Psalms is that God's driving. God shows us where to step. Okay.
Really? Also, when we supposedly fail?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, well, I think, Oshrit, it's a good point. I would say here, God has to illuminate, meaning it's not always a given, but we hope that God will illuminate. But yeah, it's a good point. It totally stands. Okay, Craig, if you'll keep going.
And this was the problem in the Talmud. Placement creates the mitzvah. In other words, does one count on the rules that are placed and standing, and in accordance to their illumination one acts? Or lighting creates a mitzvah, that one should not rely on the general rule, but only on the illumination. The Hashem shines upon every individual act, and this is lighting creates mitzvah. In other words, the beginning
Oh, sorry.
of the light that Hashem has to shine into each deed, such as the halacha.
Right. So here, again, it's sort of like Hillel and Shammai debating again. Is it about, to use Leah's example, is it about the shape of the Chanukiah, or is it about the fact that you have this as your family Chanukiah? And I think the Mea Shiloach here is saying, almost kind of leaves it to say there are these two components, that there are the rules and there is the light, and the light is God coming through. Any thoughts or interpretations or associations with this one?
So what is it saying? Is it saying the placement or the lighting?
I think it's saying the lighting, ultimately.
Because me too, I would think so too, right? It's like if you set up for the mitzvah, but you don't do the mitzvah, well, that was a great intention, but that doesn't count unless you do it. You know,
Yeah.
you want to keep kosher, but you don't actually keep kosher. Want to observe the Shabbat, Sabbath, but you don't, right?
Yeah, and I think this is also speaking to the role of the Chanukiah itself. Like, it is a vessel for God's light to come through. So it's by lighting that light that we actually kind of turn the light switch on and create that pathway for God to come through. And this last one, we have 5 minutes. I'm just going to take us through pretty quick because it's beautiful. So our sages, Zichronam Livracha, said lighting creates the mitzvah, just as the Mea Shiluach said. Their intention being to say that one should be yitalev, one should be such a beautiful word. It's a reflexive verb, that your heart should be kind of stirred to serve God. And this is the lighting. So it's not even the act here, it's the energy within the desire, almost, that the lighting is not just external. We're not just lighting this object in front of us, but we're also kindling something within us. And this is the lighting. And in this enthusiasm, one becomes, lit up, enthusiastic regarding idle things. And the tzaddik is enthusiastic only for holiness. And this is just the hanacha. This is just the placement. If somebody's just interested in, don't forget to place it at the, opening of your house. Well, sorry, I misread. So, and the tzaddik is enthusiastic. So there's, the sages are saying one thing and the tzaddik saying something else. So that tzaddik is saying, it's all about the placement, hanacha. Since rest, menucha, is called the vessel in which one places love. For in placing it in the vessel, the love which exists in something has rest. And this is one that says placement creates mitzvah. So there's a debate again. And here, those on the side of the placement are saying, actually, you have to place it in order for there to be a place for the light. So that the lighting should have rest, so that the love should be placed in the vessel, so that a person should be enthusiastic in their service. And the sages of truth, right? This is the kind of referee in the middle, intimated this, saying that the placement is the attribute of malchut, of kingship, and that by making the creator divine through our enthusiasm, there is rest. There is both in our service to God. So, it's Hillel and Shammai and the cake and the spoon, saying that you need both. And you'll find in this little packet, this is an intention that I found in my files by incredible teacher who has since passed away. She became a rabbi in her waning moments of life. Her name was Rabbi Bana Deborah Haberman. And she wrote this kavanah really about Israel and about, what it means for this oil coming out of the olives in Israel, the Middle East, that oil should, lubricate collaboration. And that may we merit to use this olive oil, the juice of the fruit of peace, with honor and delight with one another. May we kindle the flame of others and usher in a more redeemed state. May our light flow freely and burn steadily during the dark hours in our hearts and minds and in our world. And may the light and creator of darkness, maker of peace and creator of evil, right? So both, to the service of the sacred divine, we dedicate our inner fire.
Wow.
So I wish you all a magnificent season, time of illumination, wherever you light your lights or place your light or meditate on your light, but just enjoy the light for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you very much. Learned
Thank you
much.
so much.
Oh, good.
you.
I'm glad.
I couldn't read this, so I had to show you. So this is
Oh,
the,
wow. Oh my
so it's
gosh.
over 100 years old, and it's just been passed down. And now my parents have passed, so now I have it.
Wow. It's like a
It's an
sunburst.
oil lamp. Yeah, so they're all the same. They have the curve. So my son said, nope, not kosher. So we have a kosher one also.
Yeah, if you look though at the history of Chanukiot, they are all different.
Okay.
You know, the halachot came later. That's what's fascinating, you know. But the history shows the complete diversity.
Yeah, my mom family did it with potatoes
Yeah,
in Poland.
yeah,
That's what they had. They cut
Yeah.
potatoes and they make.
yeah. Same in the camps. People would light, make a wick out of a potato.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. So great to see everybody.
you.
Lila Tov.
Hello, Tov.
Thank you, Lila Tov.
Bye bye.
Shalom. Bye.